in the media conference with Lal Goyal, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And today's topic is not only current, but very, very hot. The topic is UP Population Control Bill. The draft proposal on population control released by the Uttar Pradesh State Law Commission that seeks to exclude people with more than 2 children from availing government schemes and proposes incentives for those with less than 2 children. The UP Population Control Stabilization Welfare Bill 2021 entails that couples with 1 child will get special incentives like 2 additional increments, free health care facilities, and insurance coverage for the single child till they reach 20 years of age. The single child will get preference in admission in educational institutions. The Commission has invited objections from people vis-a-vis bill by July 19th. It has invoked strong reactions from Hindu bodies and experts on women's health. Vishwa Hindu Parishad VHP International Working President Mr. Alok Kumar said the proposal to incentivize couples to have just 1 child will further the demographic imbalance in society. The government should think again about this because it leads to negative growth in population. The VHP is set to send an objection to the UP Law Commission suggesting that incentivizing of families with 1 child be removed. Experts on gender and public health have advised caution against any population policy that puts women's health and well-being at risk. Ms. Poonam Muthreja, Executive Director of the Population Foundation of India, said the concern around population explosion is not substantiated by national or global data, and there is no evidence that there is population explosion in India or Uttar Pradesh. Ms. Muthreja said the total fertility rate, TFR, is decreasing in India from 3.4 in 1992-93 to 2.2 in 2015-16 NFHS. And as per the National Family Health Survey, NFHS 4, that is 2015-16, Uttar Pradesh had a TFR, that is total fertility rate, of 2.7, which was above the national average and replacement level of TFR. However, the technical group on population projections for 2011 to 2036, constituted by the National Commission on Population NCP, has projected that UP will achieve the replacement level of TFR by 2025. Due to the efforts of subsequent state governments, health outcome has improved and will continue to improve. This will impact the fertility rate positively, she said. The UP government is incentivizing male and female sterilization. But given that the burden of conception and family planning disproportionately falls on women, it is likely that female sterilization will increase further. There continues to be widespread aversions to vasectomy, very low condom use, and a lack of male responsibility in family planning, which results in the overwhelming dependence on female sterilization. The contribution of male sterilization in use of any modern contraceptive method is less than 1% in UP, she said. Ms. Muthreja said latest data clearly indicated an alarming trend in sex-selective practices in the state and added that stringent population control measures can potentially lead to an increase in these practices and unsafe abortions, given the strong son preference in India, as has been witnessed in a few states in the past. India needs to learn from Bangladesh, which brought down its fertility rate by expanding contraceptive choices for people. Kerala and Tamil Nadu saw significant reduction in fertility rates without any corrosive methods, she said. She added that the urgent requirement is to address the utmost need of family planning and ensure access to quality family planning services. China, that enforced a one-child and a two-child policy, had to eventually abandon both after finding itself in the midst of demographic disaster and an abnormally high male to female sex ratio and aging population. Today, it faces a crisis of shortage of young working people, which will have a deep influence on the economy, she said. The policy is likely to have more performative and effectually value and fits into the general Hindu rhetoric and grandeur of Yogi Adityanath that rather seeks to further the Hindu embodiment of the state in UP. What percent of Muslims get government jobs, or how many underclass citizens benefit from any kind of government subsidy? And I would like to add one more thing. How many the government servants, those who are joining the government service, have 2 children already or 3 children? So because the age of the government services generally starts from 21 or so. So at the age of 21, how come they have more than 2 children? That is also a questionable thing. What our welfare system is not so robust that the government can bargain in return for substantial changes in traditional values like male child preference. In the last 3 decades, at least 12 states have brought in population control policies in different formats. 4 have revoked them, while others have shown questionable implementation. Incentivizing measures like paternity leave for government employees or universal cash reward for tubectomy or vasectomy may work better than force or exclusion. Bihar Chief Minister Mr. Nitish Kumar's Janata Dal United signaled its contrary stand on population control by law, a path some of the BJP-ruled states are taking. Calling the law coercive, senior JDU leader Mr. K.C. Tyagi pointed out that last year the center, in an affidavit to the Supreme Court, said the country's population has dipped for the first time in the last 100 years, and it is not necessary to enact a separate coercive law. Now, just to give an idea how the population in India is decreasing, the ratio. In 1995, the yearly percentage was 1.99%. In 2020, rather I will go to 2015, it was 1.20%. In 2020, it was 0.99%. Now, they are saying that the population forecast, 2020, the yearly change will be 1.04%, 2025, 0.92%, 2030, 0.80%, 2040, 0.50%, 2045, 0.35%, 2050, 0.23%. It means what we have seen in 1995, that was 1.99%, it reduces to 0.23% as per the current laws and policies. So whether this bill, which has been going to be introduced soon, but it's open for objection. That's why the media conference with Lal Goyal has taken up this topic today, so that one can understand from the experts that whether this bill is for the benefit of the citizens across the religion, caste, and creed, or it is harming a particular religion or a particular caste, or harming the entire society. So these things we would like to know, because today we have a very, very elite, knowledgeable experts in their field panelist with us. And I would like to invite my first panelist guest. He is Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma. Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma is the chairman of Gyandeep Shiksha Bharati Senior Secondary School, Mathura. He is a leading lawyer of Western UP with more than 41 years of practice. He is regularly appearing in Supreme Court and different high courts, including Allahabad, Madhya Pradesh, Delhi, Andhra, high courts, etc. He is extensively practicing constitutional, civil, and taxation matters. He is also rendering social services. He is secretary of Kans Nikandan Trust, Mathura. He is founder secretary of Civil Lawyers Forum and president thereafter. He is trustee of Sri Krishna Gaushala Vrindavan. He is member of managing committee of Jawahar Vidyalaya Inter College, Mathura. He has been a member of Constitution Committee of Bar Association, Mathura. He was awarded Meghshyam Smriti Samman for social services. Welcome, Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma on our show. Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma, as you are from UP, from Mathura, and you know now this proposal for the UP Pollution Control Bill is already in public, and the objections are up to 19th. You have, I'm sure that you have already studied the bill in details. So we would like to know your views on UP Population Control Bill. Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma, please.
Yeah, Mr. Goyal, first I would like to congratulate you for having a webinar on such an important and hot topic. It's a requirement of time actually. Coming to the topic, the total population of our country is about 20% of the world population. And we are having only 2% of the agriculture land area of the world. We are having only 4% of the drinkable water of the world. So the net result is that our population percentage is very high and the percentage of natural resources is very low. This is quite a problem creating thing. Anyway, we are increasing per minute. The average birth rate of our country is 33 child per minute. When this birth rate of China is nowadays 11 child per minute. So we are increasing like of that. Then as we are increasing day by day and the natural resources are not increasing, rather they are decreasing. So it is naturally very essential to have a population control. But there are certain restrictions. Restrictions are, we are a democratic country and our constitution gives a guarantee of fundamental right of life and liberty of every citizen of India. So this family planning or population control cannot be forcefully made applicable in India like that of China. You must be remembering that during emergency period, that is 1975 to 77, this forceful implementation was done, forcible sterilization was done in our country, which created a huge criticism of that government, and ultimately that government lost in the election, and the major reason of losing in election was that forcible sterilization. Thereafter, so many government came into existence, but every government was afraid of touching this aspect to frame a law. In 2000, when Atal Bihari Vajpayee government was there, Vajpayee government constituted a commission in the chairmanship of retired Chief Justice of India Venkat Chalaiya to give a suggestion that what laws are to be framed for the welfare of India. The other members of the commission were Justice Honorable Justice Sarkaria, he was retired Justice of Supreme Court, Honorable Justice Jeevan Reddy, Justice Ponnaiya, then the then Attorney General Soli Sorabji, Mr. Subhas Kashyap, who was the Secretary General of Lok Sabha, and Mr. Aved Hussain, who was the permanent representative to United Nations for India. This Venkat Chalaiya Commission gave its report on 31st of March 2002. And they suggested several statutes to be formulated in their report. And one of the important suggestion was to frame a population control act. The Vajpayee government remained in existence up to 2004, but that government didn't do anything in compliance of this report. Anyway, In 2004, a new Congress government was there. Then the Congress government accepted that Venkatachalaya report and they formulated certain laws in accordance with that report. Manrega was framed accordingly. Right to Information Act was framed. Right to Education Act was framed. Right to Food Act was framed. All these acts were suggested by Venkatachalaya report. But Population Control Act was not framed at all. Though it was also the part of the same commission report, but it was never acted upon at all. The report was accepted by the government and the parliament, but not acted upon at all. In 2019, a writ petition was filed in the Delhi High Court by one person for a direction to the central government to frame a law for population control in accordance with the Venkatachalaya Commission report. This writ petition was initially dismissed by Delhi High Court on the ground that as the formulation of law is a sole prerogative of the government and we cannot make any direction to the government to frame a particular law. Anyway, then a PIL was filed in January 2020 before Honorable Supreme Court with the same request, with the same prayer, that direction be issued to the central government to frame the law in accordance with the Venkatachalaya report. In this PIL, notices were issued to the Attorney General, central government, to give their response. That writ petition is pending till today. PIL is pending till today. No direction has been issued and nothing has been done by the government. It is expected to be heard in the mid of August now. So anyway, that matter is pending. Now, central government has done nothing, but 11 other states have changed, modified their laws by adopting the two-child policies. These states are Assam, Orissa, Bihar. Now they have revoked thereafter. Initially they implemented it. Uttarakhand, Maharashtra, Andhra, Telangana, Rajasthan, Gujarat, MP has also revoked it. Chhattisgarh, Haryana has also revoked it. So all these states made certain amendments to their local bodies act, that is Municipal Act, Corporation Act, Panchayat Raj Act, and the State Employees Employment Services Act, etc. And they made a restriction for entering into the election, contesting the election, or getting the government job for the persons having more than 2 children. 11 states have done, but no state have specifically made any law for population control. Only some amendments were done in the local acts. First time in UP, this population control bill is being proposed separately. Now coming to the UP, as you have also said, that the population growth rate of UP and Bihar is much higher than the other states. So it has become more necessary for UP to have a population control law. It's a requirement of the time. And actually what I feel, such a law must have been framed long back. This two-child policy is just to stabilize the population. It cannot decrease the population. It can simply check the growth of the population. If we could implement this policy successfully, really it shall be a big achievement for the state of UP. It is yet to be seen how far it could be implemented. Now coming to this bill, it's a good effort that such an step has been taken by the UP government. But I have gone through the bill, and what I feel, it requires some changes in its language. Some provisions are confusing, and some provisions are not fulfilling the purpose of the act. I am coming to this act now. Section 4 of this act says they have limited the incentives only to the persons, the public servants under the control of the state government who adopts two-child norm by undergoing voluntary sterilization operation upon himself or his spouse. So incentives shall be given as per this section only to the persons who are having voluntary sterilizations. Now the persons who are adopting the other family planning mode other than the sterilization, they have not been included in the act. This is not a good policy. Rather, the persons who are adopting the other mode, or I should say, they are adopting the two-child policy, all such persons must have been included. So this is a big effect, and I would like to say the entire act has been based only on the sterilization. No other method of the family planning has been accepted in this statute at all. So this is a major defect in this proposed bill, that only sterilization has been regarded. Now, one benefit has been given, that the paternity leave of 12 months shall be given to the person, to the father. Now, this seems to not correct at all, because the paternity leave is required, I would like to say, but it is maximum, it is sufficient for 1 month for one delivery. So the 2-month leave is sufficient for female, 3-month maternity leave and 3-month childcare leave. 6-month leave are already there in law. For female also, 12-month leave has been sanctioned, but for paternity leave of 12 months has also been given. This is quite surprising. Then for additional incentives, again sterilization has been given. Only sterilization persons shall be given the benefits. This is also improper. Then extension to the general public. This was with regard to employees. For the general public also, the same words have been used, undergoing voluntary sterilizations. But I am unable to understand, if one person is adopting the two-child policy, having other mode of family planning, why such persons should be exempted? This is quite surprising. Anyway, coming forward, then there is a one-child policy, that more incentives shall be given. What I feel, you have also referred one statement of that lady, that we should learn something from the experience of China. China adopted this one-child policy in 1979. Though it is correct that the population growth was checked, but ultimately a social disturbance established there, created there. Sex differences were there. Growth rate of male child was very high. Growth rate of female child, birth rate of female child was very low. And further, a 4:1 social problem created in China, that is being called 4:1 problem, that there are 4 grandparents, husband wife, out of them 2 parents, and out of them 1 son or daughter, whoever it may be. Now, 1 working hand is there. This 1 working hand has to feed 6, or if 1 or 2 that are there, then at least 4 persons. So 4 persons or 5 persons or 6 persons are retired, and 1 is the working hand who has to feed all the 4, 5 or 6. This become a huge problem in China. So China checked this one-child policy in 2015, and thereafter from 2015 they have adopted the two-child policy now. So we must have taken a lesson from this policy, and I think Vishnu Prasad, as you have referred, they have rightly objected to this policy, that this policy should not be adopted. Our more object should be to stabilize the population, not to decrease the population. Decrease is not beneficial, but growth should not be much more. So growth should not be to that extent. Then in the same way, in this statute, section 8 is there, which given some confusions. 8 subclause 2 is there. Every member of the local body or body of the local self-government having more than 2 children at the same commencement of this act have given an undertaking to the effect that they shall not act in contravention of two-child norm. Now, this is quite surprising. No one can be compulsorily mandated that he has to give an undertaking. If some employee is not giving any undertaking, then the next provision is that only in case of breach of undertaking, then first undertaking should be there, then there should be a breach, then the disintensive shall be there. So this is quite a confusing. It should be the person is having 2 child, he should get the benefit. He is having more than 2 child, he will get the disintensive. That should be the law. So this provision of undertaking, a breach of undertaking are quite confusing, and they are not adopting the basic purpose of the law. Then subclause 10 is there, section 2, 10 subclause 2. Every government employee, the state government having more than 2 children at the time of the commencement have to furnish undertaking to the effect that they shall not take income. Again, an undertaking is there. So this is quite confusing and not fulfilling the purpose of the act. So on, there are repetition also in section 13, subclause A and C. It is one and the same. It is repetition. Then it is quite surprising. Section 16 is there with regard to death of a child. An action of the individual shall not be deemed to be in contravention of the two-child norm under this act if either or both of them children born out of the earlier pregnancy dies and the couple conceives a third child subsequently. This is quite surprising. If an employee is having already 2 child, but due to any reason, if 2 child have died, then if they conceive for third time, then it is a contravention. This should not be there. Right? Opposite side should be there. That if the 2 child have died, then the third child should be permissible. But the law have been framed like that. Then see to this section, an illustration is there. A and his wife bear 2 children born out of the marriage. Both of the children died. A and B subsequently have third and fourth child born out of the different pregnancies. The action of A and B is in contravention of the 2 child. If 2 child policy is there, then that couple must have 2 child. If first 2 child have died, they can have the second 2 child. So it should not be said that they have made any contravention of the policies. So on. Some good provisions are also there in the act, and good provisions are that to establish maternity centers at all primary health centers, and then to facilitate the government expenses for reverting sterilization operations in case of death or permanent disability of a child. This should be actually, which is not there in our society. Then there is a provision for compulsory insurance of doctors and hospitals, that in case of sterilization fails, then no one can sue and they should be insured, and the insurance cost shall be borne by the government. So with these my suggestions, I think act is necessary, but the proposed bill requires some modification, some change. We cannot based only on sterilization. The other modes of family planning should also be adopted. That's all, Mr. Goyal.
Thank you very much, Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma, for giving your views. You have analyzed the bill, and according to you, the bill, they are having some good provisions, but there are some which are not proper at this stage. And what Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma has mentioned, I will just highlight few things. He says that the sterilization should not be forced, and first thing. And secondly, he says the entire bill is based on sterilization, while there are other methods for the couple, the husband and wife, so that they can control the family plan, control the family, or plan the family planning. But why only the sterilization is required? That was the one reservation of Advocate Sharma, and he says this is wrong. They should allow other methods also in the same way. Only thing is, your condition is that only 2 childs should be there. If there is more, then whatsoever disincentives are there, that is fine. Secondly, he is mentioned about the PIL, which is filed in 2020, and he says that till now no action has been taken. But as per our report, Advocate Sharma, I think some affidavit has been filed by the government in which they says no corrosive action is required, and now the population is under control. So once they are saying like this, then how this bill is coming right now? Although center and state both have the same BJP government, there is no difference. It is not like Kerala or other or Rajasthan or Punjab, where there are other parties ruling, so they can have this thing. One more thing which he has raised, he says one provision says that if both the child die, and if there will be a pregnancy for third and fourth, that is against or the contravention of this bill. Now, in the next or some other clause, he himself mentioned right now, Advocate Sharma, that if one child died, then the reversible of sterilization can be done. So I think there is some either typographical mistake or somebody has not understood. One side you are saying that basically after two child, even if those two children died, you are not supposed to have another pregnancy, otherwise you will not get the benefits.
They are contradictory provision, Mr. Goyal. Contrary provisions are there.
This is a contradictory, correct?
Yeah.
So why it is happening? And one more thing, which is very alarming, which Dr. Advocate Sharma says, that the bill says that in case of a failed sterilization operation by a doctor, no one can sue the doctor. How is it possible? If suppose the medical negligence, it's not something which is a God's act, it's a medical negligence. It should come under the medical negligence. Otherwise, it is only a failure of this thing. Tomorrow's anything can happen.
Mr. Goyal, there is a provision for insurance of the doctor and hospital. That insurance shall be created, and the insurance amount shall be paid by the government. So whatever amount shall be paid to that lady who got the pregnancy in spite of sterilization, that shall be paid by the insurance company, not by the doctor or the hospital. That is the provision.
Okay. So, but he cannot be sued according to you. Like nowadays the talk is that the government of India will stood guarantor for Pfizer vaccination, that no one can sue the Pfizer in case if the vaccine fail. Similar, I think the situation that here the government will pay for the insurance and the government will be bearing the cost. Okay, but he says there are good provisions, and he says the population is a matter of concern, and that's why he says that there is a good provisions, but because of some lacunas, some contradictory provisions, this bill is not up to the mark, which requires a rethinking, and they should revisit it, and then only they should bring it. But overall, Advocate Sharma is in support of the bill, I can say, not against the bill. Okay, thank you very much, Advocate Sharma, for giving your views. Now I would like to invite my next guest, and he is Advocate Deo Prakash Singh. Advocate Singh is MSc LLB. He is president of CAPSI Bihar chapter. He is the managing partner, Mars and Mars Legal Advisors LLP. He is the managing director at Mars Mountain Security Services Private Limited. He is the chairman, Labor Resource Subcommittee, Bihar Industries Association. He is the member of Regional EPFO Committee, Bihar. He is a member of Grievances Redressal Committee, ESIC, Bihar. He is a member of Minimum Wages Committee, Labor Department, Government of Bihar. He is member of Governing Council, Bihar Skill Development Mission, Labor Department, Government of Bihar. He is the chairman of IR Committee, CII, Bihar State Council. His articles has been published in several prestigious magazines. He is an author of Labor Law Support LLS, published by Bihar Industries Association, Bihar, released by ex-president late Shri Pranab Mukherjee. He is having 21 years experience for running a security and manpower consultancy organization, employing more than 16,000 persons and complying with their statutory labor law obligations. Welcome, Mr. Advocate DP Singh on our show. Advocate DP Singh, you have heard what Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma has mentioned. He has given both the sides of the bill, positive and negative, but ultimately he says the bill is good because ultimately the population has to be controlled. Well, but you are coming from a state where the state chief minister has categorically said that they are not in favor of such types of bills which will be a coercive inaction. And although you know very well, the Bihar and the UP, these are the two states where the growth or the population growth is far more than any other states. So now we would like to know your views on this UP population control bill. Advocate Deo Prakash Singh, please.
Good morning again. We have many thanks to Goyal Sahab, who has invited us for this important topic, population control bill, draft bill, initiated by the government of UP. We should have no confusion in understanding that we are under pressure of overshooting population of our nation. Whereas China is bearing 9 child per minute. We are bearing around 35 child per minute. The exponential growth of the population is casting a very adverse impact upon the developmental activities by the government. You see that the National Food Security Act has proposed around 3/4 population to feed. And not only to feed, it is also to take care of the food nutrient security. And this has been as per the agreement with the UNO, and the government of India has to feed its people at any cost. And now since the corona has spread, right from March 2020, we have seen the position of the laborers. We have seen what has happened. People have died on the railway lines and all these things. This overshooting population has created poverty, starvation, malnutrition, exploitation, unemployment, high mortality of infants, female ferticide, illiteracy, unemployment. All these are the problems so much related with the overshooting of the population. So we should have no confusion then to that. We should control our population. UP is one of the most populous state, and next is Bihar. So I think the government is hard pressed to do it and initiate some action. But yes, we do have very dark history of control of human population by government-sponsored program. We could not forget the Midnight General reference by Salman Rushdie in Salman Rushdie's book, in which he has written what has happened just like Nazis. The police used to cordon off the whole villages and used to sterilize the village. Mr. Sharma is very much right to say that the benchmark, even in this, is a sterilization. And in this age where we have several means to control the procreation, why the benchmark is the sterilization? This is somewhat like a Talibani Khan. We should not do like this. The other part is that even the Congress government, when Mr. M.L. Fatedar was the health minister in 1992, he introduced a bill to control population. That bill could not get through because the willpower of the government that time was not so strong. In 2000, Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi initiated, I think Mr. Sharma might be knowing, a private bill, National Population Control Policy. That bill could not be discussed in the parliament. And this UP Control, Stabilization, Welfare Bill is more than 90% is the copy of that Abhishek Manu Singhvi National Population Control Policy Bill. It has been proposed by Abhishek Manu Singhvi that instead of for civil sterilization, we should start with incentives and disincentives. Government is to somewhat, I think the bill is sensitized and sensible in taking care of the incentives and disincentives. I may have some reservations, I will speak later on. Multiple birth, polygamous, polyandry, death, disabled, all the things have been considered by government in the draft bill. So the bill is not so much of just Talibani Qanun. It has taken care of so many things. It has invited our suggestions. I think Mr. Goyal will also, after this discussion, will submit some suggestions to the UP draft bill. It is open to all. But the policy, I think, is very much not correct in so many aspects. Like in section 7, it has given, section 9, it has given, there is bar on contesting the election. And one thing is not clarity. The person who has been a member of any local body, he may contest. But the person who is not having a member till that day, and after that, if he want to contest and having more than 2 children, what will happen to that? Once the bill is saying that this will not be effective for the persons having more than 2 children, before the notification of this bill, after, because the bill is going to be effective after 1 year of the promulgation of the bill. So this is not very much, there is no clarity. What about the fresh persons? Suppose a person who is having 4 children and he wants to contest the local body election. And since it is the UP draft bill, he cannot go for the MLAs and the MPs, whereas in Abhishek Manu Singhvi has proposed for the legislators. This is for the MLAs and the member of parliaments, because they should be the role model of society. I think the government should start from there, because population is not the only problem of the Uttar Pradesh. It is a problem of whole India. So this bill should have come in the parliament, and in the more similar way what Mr. Sharma is saying, we should have started with the incentives. We should have started with some disincentives with the legislators only. But so far, the government job, you are just a government. Each government job is a benevolence. You are just distributing the government job. We don't. Even government does not need any expertise, any skill, any qualification. You are just doling out the government job. And how many percent of persons are in the government job? 2 or 3% only. What about the 97%? In 97%, you are giving 4 persons. You are limiting its 4 persons ration card. Will it not intersect with the National Food Security Act, Government of India? In section 27, you have said this will not intersect any overriding effect you have given. You have saved the law. What will happen to the Article 254 when it will be inconsistent with the National Security Act? If you issue the 4 persons ration card, and if a person have 5 or 6 persons, then what will happen? So I think this bill, even if passed by the UP Assembly, it may face several roadblocks and hurdles and PILs and so many things. And you have already told that some affidavit has been given by the Government of India that there is no expert of population. Then how your state is coming with this legislation? Government of Bihar already practicing since 2007 that in local body, urban development, urban local bodies, no person can contest who is having more than two children. And in Panchayat election, after this Panchayat, which is going to be held, after this Panchayat election, the Minister of Panchayat, Mr. Samraj Chaudhary, has just told yesterday that they are going to introduce in the Panchayat election. So Government of Bihar might have said something for the political reasons, but they are doing. But one thing, a very positive part has said by Mr. Nitish Kumar, that we will emphasize on the education and awareness of the female population. And he has given the Balika cycle scheme and the Posak scheme and that uniform scheme, all these things. I think that because the population control, whenever government comes with the population control, it goes towards the females only. Whereas it has been proved scientifically that the sterilization of men is more easier, more safer than the women, but still it goes against that. We should not forget the experiences of China and Assam. Assam is already practicing population control since 2019, and China has the extreme female foeticide is there. Mr. Sharma is very right. The day will come that the population who are retiring on the home shall outnumber the persons who will be earning for the family. Though I may differ that the earning family member, son or girl, my daughter, is feeding now the older people. So for this, I would like to go for the social security scheme, because in one case has happened in Bihar, the district judge of Motihari has delegated the responsibility of cremation of his father to cremate his father, and he has not even gone to the cremation of his father, and he has been rebuked by the High Court. This has happened just one month before. So social security, and this is another subject which can be taken, that the old persons and senior citizens are not being taken care of the family now. So even if one child, 2 child, there is another thing, social security scheme has to be made robust for this purpose. In section 1, the UP government proposed that he will prefer not to promulgate or notify all the sections of this bill. Selectively, they will go for some sections. If they want to go for selectively for some sections, I think they should go for the incentives, not with the government job, not with the, I think, 12 months maternity leave. I think it will be liability to the state. Already 6 months is much more. 3 months was quite accurate. We are facing in our concern when a female goes for 6 months maternity leave, it is if he and she becomes redundant, really irrelevant for the organization. So I think what people are doing, the 6 months leave is too much. 3 months is more than sufficient. So and the 12 months, what type of things they are going to do it? 12 months leave with full salary and benefits. Will it not adversely affect the industry of the nation? Will it not affect the development of the nation? It will have, certainly will have a adverse effect upon the development of the nation. It will be a liability to the state. So government should not act like this. If 12 months leave, 3% increment in the NPS This is a welcome formula. You can give 3% by the government side. You can give support to 3%. But what for about the industries? Who will give that 3% extra to the EPF? Whether the industry owners, it will again be liability. Will the government will do it? So this is not clear. The other things have been, I think, taken care by Mr. Sharma. One thing has not been included, that there must be some incentive for in government tenders, just like private entrepreneurs, and there must be some tax shops. There must be some benefits in the MSME sectors like startups and these the sectors. The government has, the bill has not taken care of all these things. If the government gives some incentives to the entrepreneurs, and because I have already said the government job is very, very feeble, and you cannot rest upon the government job is just a lottery, and you are giving the government job and you are giving the incentive for the government job. I think this will create another thing. And one thing may also happen. The middle class people or the persons who are affluent people who are aware, who are more educated, they will grab all the government jobs in 10 to 15 years. What will happen to the downtrodden? The downtrodden are the persons who are unaware, uneducated. They will be away from the government job. So this will be a limiting and I think the limiting provision for those downtrodden and uneducated people. And ultimately, the democracy is a game of numbers. Suppose a section of society does not prefer this control bill. After 10 to 15 years, they will outnumber. They will start saying in the parliament and assembly. They will come in the assembly and they will say that this bill is bullshit. So what will happen? You are just depriving the persons who are just obeying you and adhering you the rules and regulations. So this will again be a bad thing, and this thing should be, I think, controlled. The another thing is that if the government job you have given, and government job is only for the smaller sections of the people, and what will happen for that? Those persons who are having large number of people, they will not go for it. So I think these are things are limiting, and or I have already said that the government control, population control is a very dark history in India, and we expect that the government, it will become a tool of fascism for the government, and government will start exploiting. There may be a possibility of this. So such type of rules should not come in India. The population explosion is yes, but it is not as enormous as the bill should have come up. We should start with the female education. We should start with the maternity and healthcare benefits. We should start with the employment, but we should not come with the bill and rules and legislations. What Mr. Nitish Kumar has said, that for this legislation is not required. Yes, for the MPs, MLAs, for the local self body, you can go for it, but you should go for the robust healthcare benefits in the block level, in PSC level. This will pay. I don't think the forcible sterilization will pay. And this 1,80,000 benefit, this will start another scheme in villages. The Mukhia and Sarpanch will come and they say, any person you come and go for sterilization and you get 40,000, they will take it. And this was cash benefits should not be given to anybody, because cash benefits like Manrega and all this, it's a root cause of corruption in villages. You don't know, Goyal Sahab, previously Mukhias were just big persons of the villages, and they become now in Mukhia election 1 crore rupees is invested to win the Mukhia election. Why? All their schemes are going in the panchayat and they are taking money in they are getting their cut on everything. So this will become another source of income. So these things I think should taken care of. I think government of UP is in slumber and taking the old thought. When the government of India has already given the affidavit in the Supreme Court, it should have taken care of all these things. My conclusion part is that the government should go with the incentives, not with the government job, only for the maternity benefits. But if they want to devour, they devour the election in the local elections. If they can go for that, government of India should devour the MPs and MLAs for it, but not for the persons who are having, just because my Lalu Prasad Yadav will be devoured, he will be having 9 children. And if you make this law effective retrospective effect, it will be a limiting factor for so many legislators. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Advocate D.P. Singh, for giving your views. And Advocate Singh is very clear in his thoughts. He says this is like a Taliban dictate. And he says you cannot force something. We are a democratic country. And if you are putting like this, it is going to be having a very, very long-lasting bad impact. And he has given the reason. First thing he says, this bill, what they have brought is a copy of the private bill which Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi introduced in the Lok Sabha, but or Rajya Sabha, I can't say. Where can you just clarify, Advocate Singh, where he introduced in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha? Rajya Sabha, because I know that he was a member of Rajya Sabha. So he has introduced there, but no government, neither the opposition nor the ruling party wanted this bill to be discussed at all, because they know this is a very, very sensitive issue because of the infamous Nasbandi thing which has taken place during the emergency. Secondly, he says that though in the Advocate Abhishek Manu Singhvi's bill, it was to bar the legislators, the MLAs and MPs. While because it's a state bill, they cannot bar, they don't have the power to bar. But what he says is that only 2 to 3% people are working in the government. They are the government servants. What about the 97%? That is a very, very important point. It means you are only depriving the benefits. You are only putting your dictatorship only to the government servants, not to the other. One very important point which he has raised is that what about the industry? Because today you are going to do for the government servants, definitely this will come on in the private industries, because they will then ask why we are not getting the paternity leave of 1 year. And this will be a very, very heavy burden for any private organization. Already the MSMEs and all the business organizations are in doldrums due to the lockdowns, and over and above this bill is coming. So this thing he has also mentioned. And he says, instead of that, what Bihar's government is doing, they should try to educate more girl childs. They try to give more facilities to them. They must make the medical schemes, benefit schemes more robust. Instead of doing these types of fascism, Advocate Singh used the word fascism tactics. Please be careful, Advocate Singh. Nowadays, to use these types of words, I don't know what is going to happen. Anyway, these are the words of Advocate Singh. I am taking, I have to safeguard myself. Otherwise, tomorrow, like what happened to Twitter, it can happen to me also. But one thing is very clear, which he has mentioned, and it is really a very, very alarming. They are giving a cash incentives. To whom? Those who are going for sterilizations. They says there will be a scam. That like what has happened. I don't know whether Advocate Singh knows, but I know very well that Advocate Ramesh Sharma knows the emergency. And I know well, because at that time I was a railway contractor, how we have to procure the fake, I am using the word fake, Nasbandi certificate, and giving, which we are procuring for 100 to 400 rupees. Or sorry, 40 to 100 rupees. That was the rate I'm talking of somewhere in during the emergency, about 75, 76. And we have to produce to get our bill cleared. Now, one can imagine that this is going to happen here. How anybody will understand which is a fake or not fake certificate? So these people will give those certificates. And tomorrow they say, now we have done the this thing, our sterilization, this failed. So now government will pay the compensation also, and they are very happy because the sufferer cannot sue the doctor. They will have the third child because their sterilization failed. It's not my fault, not the fault of the person, and the government has to dole out the compensation to the family also, and they cannot sack. I'm sure if the sterilization failed, then they cannot go ask them to do the abortion. Correct, Advocate Singh? Yeah. If they will not ask, it means the person will have third child. And he or she will get the benefit, the compensation from the government, and the doctor is safe. So if the doctor is giving a false certificate today, tomorrow, doctor is earning money because he is giving the false certificate. The person will have third child. The compensation will be paid by the government, and he is he or she will be enjoying the government job. So that is a very, very big lacuna. I think this.
There is one provision that when there is culpable negligence proved on the part of the doctor, then there will he can.
So once the certificate has been issued by the doctor, if the certificate is issued by the doctor and it is found that I sterilize, so how come you can catch hold of that family? Although he might have done it, you know very well how it works, as you have mentioned about the Mukhia election. Recently, there were elections in UP and media reports, I'm not saying the media reports, crores and crores rupees were paid for a single panchayat member to go give the vote. So when this is the situation, if by paying 1 lakh rupees or 2 lakhs rupees to a doctor is very easy to get a third child. Anyway, what he says is very, very clear, and he is worried about the private industries, which one has to be, because only 2 to 3% are working in the government job. The rest are working in the private sector or unorganized sector. What is going to happen to them? All these things are questionable, according to Advocate Singh. Thank you very much, Advocate Singh, for giving your very, very vocal views. I'm sure government should also understand what you are saying. Thank you very much. Now I'm coming to my next guest, and he is Advocate Shivang Bhargav. Advocate Shivang Bhargav is a 5th generation lawyer practicing arbitration, criminal and civil litigations at Delhi and Mathura. He did schooling from the Scindia School, Gwalior. He did graduation from National Law University and Judicial Academy, Assam. There he was the Joint Secretary of Student Bar Council. He also participated in William Court via moot court competitions at Vienna and Hong Kong. He went for a student exchange to Osprey School, United Kingdom. He marched on 26 January parade at Rajpath, New Delhi. Welcome, Advocate Shivang Bhargav, on our show. Advocate Shivang Bhargav, you have heard two eminent or senior advocates, Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma as well as Advocate DP Singh. Now, we would like to know your views on the UP Population Control Bill. Advocate Shivang Bhargav, please.
First of all, a very good morning to everyone present here. And that was really great hearing to such dignitaries talking about with such specifics of the particulars of the act. And to the detail, I'm very much obliged because I get to learn so much. But my views particular to the UP Population Control Bill, and it is very limited because I think the word control here is in disobedience of so many particulars of the constitution itself that it takes away a lot of things. I understand the UP coming from a state which has the highest population in India as when it comes to the account of the states. It has the highest. So we do need a particular control of population, but it has to be in the terms of stabilization and not in terms of control. Control within itself, as DP sir was already highlighting a lot of facts about the local panchayat bodies and their elections. So coming to these particulars, so it is very much derogatory. It is, first of all, talking about ration card. It can be, the ration can be provided to particulars of 4 in a family. What happens to the right of the particular Article 21, right to life? What happens to the 5th or 6th particular of the family, which is under the below poverty line? What happens to that person? And as it has been already been highlighted, that this act comes into effect after 1 year of the publication of the Gazette. So how particular do you implement this particular act at today's standing? And legal fraternity is very well versed with the term, the law does not work retrospectively. So how can somebody who has a parent, a couple who has decided to have their 3rd child in 2002 or 2004, whose child might be preparing for a job in the government, in the UP government, or some job which is in particulars in the governance of UP, how is, on the standing of today, he comes to that conclusion that what happened in 2002 which should have a standing today? The law does not work retrospectively. So coming with the application of a law suddenly, and you decide to put up a law in 2023, it cannot be a defining line, or it cannot be a punch in the wall in this right on the face when there has been no historical development to the policies and structure. Historical development has been very, like, already been spoken by the my designated seniors, that how the parliament, how the bills were proposed, how what has happened to the development of particular control of the population. But what about stabilizing it? What about incentivizing it? Which is again there are many anomalies into this incentivization of particulars. So as I was hearing, I just wanted to make a clarification that at local level, maybe I'm not that well versed to judge that particular aspect, that I think the incentivization of cash is only for the below poverty line. So I can understand that there is always a problem when it comes to incentivizing and the distribution of that particular cash. And so many people, so many influential parties come into picture at local level when we talk about the uneducated sector and the partially educated sector. It might create a problem, but that is in reference to a below poverty line, which is again a very incentivized role. And again, I think it is in particular, my suggestion here starts with that this particular bill should be applicable to people who come into this purview should be post 2000, who are born post 2000 should be a signatory. Coming to my generation, like I'm born out of 1994, so I can be a signatory. It can come in from that particular 95 to 2000 bracket, where now we can be in a position to sign that undertaking, which was again in question, which is my a very adamant point which I'd like to say. Undertaking, as Ramesh Sharma sir has already highlighted, undertaking cannot be forceful. This whole word control in this particular act is destabilizing so many anomalies in this whole democratic structure and the fundamental rights of the constitution. The habit of government of taking control has extended beyond its purview in the first place, which I would not like to comment upon because it's a broader derogative. So this particular draft bill should start from the age group of 1995 to 2000. A person who decided to have kids in 1980 cannot be under the purview for his action taken 20 years back to decide upon the factors of his particular, when you, I mean, you cannot be having monetary benefits at the age of 50 because that time you decided to have a number of amount of kids. So these are all beyond the purview of, and these are just, they just don't add up to the particular decision which has been taken today. So it cannot be retrospective in nature. So it simply cannot be. The structuring of this policy has to be developed over the period of next 10 to 15 years, which can gradually grow, and it should not come under the word control. It should be for the stabilization and welfare. It is great that at lower levels that so many incentives are being provided. But question about disbarring, starting today, if we like the Gazette pass in, say, 1st January 2022, if the Gazette is published and 2023 it's applicable, so how do you get all these particulars in standing today? Like contesting out of, like barring contesting elections to local authority, government jobs. I have so much of my college people who just passed out, no, so many of them, as I recently graduated, they are preparing and they do come under that purview, and they are preparing for exam in UP. So how do you decide as to what particulars this comes into, and when will it act and take place? And second thing highlighted very nicely. So how can, if somebody applying for a government job at the age of 2022, 2023 can very like 20 can very can sign that particular undertaking that I would not be having more than 2 kids. They can do it now. So how did you decide at the age of 21 or 25 that how number of amount of kids you're going to have? It is again incentivizing sterilization is in particular. I suppose it's not in violation of the constitutional principles, but it's a good incentive, because the whole ethos of this particular act, as I like to correctly quote, this commission, the law commission which has put up this draft bill, is headed by Justice Adityanath Mittal, who has correctly said that there were limited ecological and economic resources at hand in UP, and it is necessary to control and stabilize the population for promotion of sustainable development with more equitable distribution. So now, this need of today's bill, when we understand how government is coming to these conclusions, we have to take a look at the state of the economy and the depleting resources at hand. It is the disparity, the incentivization is good in nature, because there is so much difference coming in the whole economy. The whole the income stratas are moving in very polar directions. So when we there is a need, if somebody has to put food at the table of 6 kids, it is going to be a problem with depleting, with stringent laws. Earlier, what used to happen, people like the lower income strata used to decide that they want to have 5 or 6 kids, because they will put kids to job at the age of 5 or 7. They'll go wash utensils or do some odd job. So 3 of the kids will probably go to school till the class of 1 or 2, and then they are just meant for jobs. Their whole purpose is to get income to the household, that the whole family can promote it. But changing those directions is good in nature, because if we want to have a welfare and in the society, for the development of society, these practices are good. The whole ethos and the mind behind this is good, but controlling and putting actions to a certain standard today, it cannot be into that particular.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Advocate Shivang Bhargav. And Advocate Shivang Bhargav has mentioned 2 very important points. First thing he says, it cannot be retrospective in nature. So you cannot think, nobody will have presumed in earlier, before 1905 or 1900, 1990, that this type of bill will come. So they should not have 3 child or so, as far as the elections are concerned. And he says the economy is in doldrum. So in ethos, although in UP, economy is doing very well. We have invested lots of money in organizing Holi, Kumbh Mela, and now Kanwad Yatra. Although right now I just received a breaking news that the Supreme Court has taken suo moto and is to ask the UP government why they are allowing the Kanwad Yatra. So, but one thing I would like to clarify from all of you before I will go to the next panelist, whether the UP government who are appointing their senior advocates to represent them in High Court and Supreme Court, this law will also apply on them, that if they are having more than 2 children, that they will not appoint those advocates who are, because what Advocate Shivang Bhargav has said is very right. When it is, and I am sure that when you are appointing somebody, whether it's a retainer or whatsoever, you are giving the government money to them. So it should be applicable on all, because after all, you are appointing now. You are not appointing for the advocate. Those who have been already representing the case, fine. But a new case, like some new case which has come now, the government of UP should give undertaking that they will not appoint any advocate or solicitor who is having more than 2 children. Anyway, that is a matter of one more objection, and I'm asking because you 3 are the advocates, so I have to say thank you very much, Advocate Shivang Bhargav, for giving food for thought. Now I am coming to my next guest, and surprisingly today he's not an advocate, but he is a civil service aspirant, and he is Mr. Rohan Jindal. Mr. Rohan Jindal is a BTech Mechanical Engineering from Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, Uttar Pradesh. So he also belongs to Uttar Pradesh, so he knows the reality, and now he's appearing for civil services. I'm sure that he has to think twice or thrice whether I should go or not, because then the compulsory sterilization is awaiting you if you are going to be in UP. And one more thing is very clear now. We would like to clear for the about my own sake and for the knowledge of the viewers, whether it will be applicable on the IAS and IPS or the civil services or not, because UP government has no control directly on the selection of IAS and IPS. So whether it will be applicable or not, That is also one matter of thing, because now like Mr. Jindal is appearing tomorrow, he will become an IAS, and he has been posted in UP, and the UP says, no, you are going to have 3 children. We will not allow you. We will throw you out. Will this be applicable to them or only for the PCS or those who are the provisional civil services? That is also one has to see. Mr. Rohan Jindal is a runner-up of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Parikrama in 2019. He is working on agriculture solution in form of hydroponic technology. Welcome, Mr. Rohan Jindal on our show. Mr. Rohan Jindal, you have heard all the 3 leading advocates, and now we would like to know your views. Paucity of time, not more than 5 minutes, please.
Good morning, sir, fellow panel members and audience. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Goel for this amazing opportunity. It's my pleasure to be sharing the same stage as some of the dignitaries in the field of law. And the population control bill has many discrepancies as I have studied. First of all, the chapter 2, section 4, 5, 6, and 7 offer incentives and mention voluntary sterilization. The problem with voluntary sterilization is that in Uttar Pradesh, the under 5-age mortality rate is 850 deaths per day. That means 850 families will need to go under reverse sterilization processes. And sterilization processes are not very successful. The success rate for reverse sterilization processes decrease by the years. After just 5 to 6 years, the success rate of a reverse sterilization process drops to 55%. That means per day, almost 400 families lose their ability to procreate. That is a very that's what Mr. Sharma also mentioned, that this law is very sterilization very much based on sterilizations. Second is there are no special incentives for 2-girl child. With the India being a country where males are preferred in the family, what if a family chooses a 2-child policy and ends up with both girls? What will they do now? They will such families will tend to more stick to female feticide and discrimination. That will be the result of what this law will be. Next is a very controversial part for me. Chapter 2, section 5 and 6, clause C and F provide preferences to single child in admission to educational institute and government jobs, respectively. In a country where reservation is already a very heavily debated topic, to add another layer on top of it is almost criminal to the youth of the nation. Why should a child be a part in the crimes or the decision his or her parents made? It's not the decision of the child to be born 3rd or 4th in the family. Why should the child be forced to why should a child be forced to stand last in the line because he was born 4th in the family? This should not be included, because this is very unfair to the children. I think the disincentives or the punishment should be limited only to the parents of the family. Next is chapter 3, section 14, adoption. Under no circumstance can a family adopt more than 2 children. I don't understand why is even adoption a part of this law. Adoption does not contribute to the population increase. Why should adoption be? What if a homosexual couple wants to adopt 3 or 4 children? If nothing else, adoption should be incentivized to promote dispromote like adoption is noble cause. It promotes people. It gives home to children which have been orphaned by some maybe accidents or natural calamities. So should not adoption be incentivized and promoted other than being demoted with placing bars on adoption? Next is yes, the total fertility rate of India is currently at 2.1 as of 2.179 as of 2021. And the report of IHME, Institute of Health Metric and Education Evaluation, India's TFR will drop to 1.29 by 2100, and India's population will drop to 1.09 billion. That is much lower than the current population of 1.37 billion. So if a law is to be enacted even in state level or national level, it should. I think we should learn from the mistakes of China, and we should limit the duration of the law to maybe 20 to 30 years, not more than that, and try to flatten out the peak that will occur by 2050 or 2040 over the population. That is it. I prepared for that.
Okay,
Time being,
okay.
sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roshan Jindal. Two very important points which I would like to highlight. First is the admission in colleges, universities. He says, how come the child should suffer? After all, he has not decided to come third or fourth. It was a parent's decision. And if he will be not getting he will be deprived one over and over reservations, already so many reservations. This is very wrong. And second, about the adoption, that is very, very important point. Adoption, already the children are existing, they are not the child. So now if somebody is adopting, they are doing some very good social service. One should not say that adoption is not allowed, although there are legal complications. Then people will say this is he or she is an adopted child, they will not show that their own child. Anyway, that is a legal jugglery and things are there. Thank you very much, and all the best for your civil services. Yes, you have done the homework. This type of homework will definitely take you in the civil service, but please be cautious. If you are taking your cadre for UP, first check up whether they will allow you or not. Otherwise, take other cadres. Thank you very much. Now I would like to go for the question. My first question goes to Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma. Do you think bill is against Hindus, which is now taking place everywhere? The VHP is taking very, very strong objections. Although media try to project that it's against Muslims, but no. If you closely understand the bill, it is against Hindu, which is now the VHP is saying. What are your views? What you say about this, Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma?
Yes, Mr. Goyal, the act has not been it is not being enacted for Hindus or Muslims. It is being enacted for the entire population of the state of UP. But as the Hindus are much in population, definitely it will affect much to Hindus and less to the Muslims. It is quite sure. Another important thing is the whatever incentives are being given or disincentives are being proposed, they are generally being very less in quantity are being availed by the Muslims. So they are not going to be affected to that extent, and Hindus are going to be affected too much from the Muslim community. This
so
is
it shows that the bill, what VHP is saying is correct, that this is a anti-Hindu bill. It is not anti-Muslim bill.
My view is no act should be eyed by this religious aspect. It is for the entire population of the state of UP. What may be Hindu or Muslim, it is
Advocate Sharma, we should be fair. What about the CA or NSRC? We know that those bills are targeted home. So we should be fair enough. What VHP is saying, because earlier initially it was projected that it is against Muslims, but now after
it is going to be affected Hindus much more than
Hindus must. So
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
that's so. Now my question goes to Advocate Singh. Do you think this bill is a political bill? Because everybody knows that now the 6 months after the elections are going to take place in UP, you are saying that the effective date is after 1 year. Everybody knows, nobody knows, sorry, not every, nobody knows who is going to be the ruling party in the UP after 6 months election. And it is initially it was projected that it is particularly to divide the communities and to see that there, but now recently in last 2 days it has emerged that it is against Hindus. So do you think it's a political bill just to polarize the situation in UP or not? The Advocate Singh, please.
No, not at all. This is a political bill. Mr. Sharma is very right that every bill is for the entire population, not for a particular sector or particular sector or community. The one thing is very much clear that it is imperative to control and stabilize the population growth. There's no doubt. I have told you in the very beginning, we should not be confused that this is not a normal, this is not a pandemic for us. This exponential growth of population is really a headache for us. We have to control this. Bill should have come from by the government of India, but not forcible sterilization. We are not saying the forcible sterilization. We are not saying what Mr. Jindal has said, that if a boy has been born as a third or fourth child, and he should be debarred from preference in taking education or applying for the government job. This should not have happened. So one thing, adoption, he has told why adoption has been taken care. Adoption may be the bypass route to adopt, get a child. So many surrogacy also is rampant in so many states in Gujarat and Maharashtra. So government has taken care of that. But bill cannot be said that because if it is a political bill, the government of UP encases the Hindu population, Hindu votes. And this bill favoring the Muslim population by taking care of polygamy and polyandrous and so many having 3 wives and 4 wives, these things will not be applicable to Hindus. So this bill is tilted towards the taking care of the interest of the Muslims more than taking care of the Hindus. So, so far as political bill is concerned, this can be nullified. I will issue that this is not for the political purposes. This care has been taken because UP, whenever government comes with the developmental programs, it has been eaten away by the surging population in everywhere. So we have to think to control and stabilize our population. The present rate of population is 2.9% as far as I know. But government, even if gets it 5 or 10 years, 2.1, it will be a I think gango position for the government and very satisfactory. Even if you are able to stabilize the population.
Okay.
So I think it is not a political.
Okay. Thank you, Advocate Singh. Now my question goes to Advocate Bhargav. Advocate Bhargav, do you think it will increase the female feticide? Because what will happen that if already somebody will, and UP, you know very well, UP well, that there are more people wants to have the son. And once you have first daughter, you means the person is having first daughter, he or she would like, the family would like to have the second son. But for that, they will go and check that, do the sex determination test. And if they found that it is a female, definitely they will, because they do not want the third child because of this law. Do you think it will increase the female feticide, and it is very harmful against the women and those who are women or those who are in this means, I mean to say, it's generally it's against the women.
It's definitely against the society, and definitely it will increase. Once you try to put a bar to a situation where people are already very orthodox in their own sense that they want the boy child, so it has to be them, and then putting a curb to the limit to that, so definitely it'll increase. But as to pertaining to the tweaking of that clause, that after I was very skeptical on that part, that after the 2 kids or the death of 2 kids, the third child should not be put under this particular purview of this law. But if in case that's a girl child which died as first or second child, it should come under the contravention of this particular law. That is what I feel will actually create a positive difference to this particular act.
Okay, thank you, Advocate Bhargav. Now, Mr. Rohan Jindal, very specific question to you. Do you think this bill is going to be passed or not? The reason I am telling you, now it is proved that it is against Hindus, because Vishwa Hindu Parishad is saying, so Vishwa Hindu Parishad is for Hindus, they are the dharm ke thekedar जिसने कहते हैं यूपी में, वो हैं, and it is against the women, girls. So when 2 important sectors, 48% of voters are women, and Hindus, which are 84% of the population, if I'm not wrong, in UP. If they 2 sections are against, how Chief Minister or the BJP would like to take a risk and pass this bill, and they will have the fate what Nasbandi has done. You were not born at that time, to the Congress government. A specific answer from you.
Sir, I believe this is from the government. This was aimed for Hindus to woo the Hindus for the election, but it backfired on the government part when BHP raised objections to it. But I still believe that that Hindus will be from the state will still be very much pleased by the government by the government from the moves that the Ram Mandir said. From the Ram Mandir moves that were earlier played, and the next and from the coming moves that are the Mathura Mandir.
No, I'm not talking of that. I'm just asking about this specific bill. Anyway, thank you very much, Advocate Sharma. Only my answer: yes or no. Time is very short.
Whether I think this shall not be enacted, and it shall be postponed for future.
Advocate Singh.
I think it will not be enacted. It will be met so many PIs and hurdles.
Okay, Advocate Bhargav.
I think it should be progressive to 10 to 15 policy implementation, then enactment.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So thank you very much. Today's program, I would say one thing very, very clear. Today's program is so enlightening, and the views are very, very clear. The bill are having lots of lacunas. Time has been given very short because I think the bill has been into the draft bill has been put to the public on 10th or 11th of or in 2-3 days back, and now they want it till 19th, and everybody knows the pandemic is on. People are going right now for their survival, either from the medical side or for their own survival of the jobs. And over and above this bill, one has to put the objection. But the way the things our expert has mentioned very clearly that there are so many lacunas, and ultimately the bill, which was initially was shown that it is against a particular community. Now it is shown no, it's against the majority community, that is Hindus, as well as it is against the women. And if it is against these two important aspects, they are the voters. How the BJP government and especially the chief minister would like to take a chance to go to the election by forcibly passing, although there is a majority, clear majority, they can pass the bill. But if they will pass the bill, the backfire, which we have seen the views and it is appearing in the media everywhere, is so the view, our media conference views is very clear that they are going to postpone the bill. They will not enact the bill right now and put it in the cold storage, like Advocate Singh says, the Advocate Manu Singhvi's bill has not been even discussed. Thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, Newsgaon se Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, as well as was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring to you everyday new topic. But for last 2 months, we are doing a program in the evening, which is a half-an-hour program where we call a dignity on who has achieved something in his or her life, so that it can become, she or he become a role model for the young generation. And today's the program Kal Aaj Aur Kal Lal Goyal ke Sang at 4:30 p.m. My chief guest is Miss Nusrat Jahan, ex-national EK, not ex-EK. She's the National Vice President, Republican Party of India, Athawale. She is International Human Rights Commission General, and she's from Calicut. She will be telling her life journey, how she has become the International Human Rights Commission General also, as well as the inspiring things which she is going to say. So please do join in for Kal Aaj Aur Kal Lal Goyal ke Sang at 4:30 p.m. Thank you very much, Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma. Thank you very much, Advocate DP Singh. Thank you very much, Advocate Shivang Bhargav. And thank you very much, Mr. Rohan Jindal, for giving very, very enlightening and expert opinions. I am sure all our viewers are enlightened today. Thank you very much, viewers, for joining us. Thank you very much.